You may notice that children are excited by even small things and small novelty. In adults, the same things often don't cause excitement. This is related to dopamine signaling. Children have a more sensitive dopamine system, and they experience novelty and reward more strongly because their reward circuits are still developing and highly responsive to new stimuli. On the other hand, sometimes you wake up tired and weak, even if you slept enough. Sometimes tasks feel too boring and it becomes difficult to concentrate. This is also related to dopamine signaling, especially low dopamine activity in the prefrontal cortex. A large proportion of people who live in urban, chronically stressful lifestyle experience reduced dopamine signaling and reduced dopamine sensitivity. It's not absolute deficiency, but this is commonly linked to chronic stress, sleep disruption, constant overstimulation, and lack of natural rewards. Because of this, important to support dopamine system naturally. If not, person may stay chronically demotivated or may start seeking high-intensity dopamine stimulation such as substance abuse, gambling, excessive gaming, or compulsive social media use. This gives fast and cheap dopamine, but further reduce dopamine sensitivity over time, and stronger stimuli are required to get same satisfaction. Most people try to get dopamine unconsciously, but they do it in wrong way. They look for fast dopamine, such as sugar, caffeine, social media, gambling, or constant novelty. This gives a short dopamine spikes, but after the reward, dopamine sensitivity drops even further. As a result, person feels more tired, less motivated than before. This creates a vicious cycle of stimulation, crash, and more stimulation. Humans are not biologically adapted to such fast and constant stimulation. In the past, rewards were slow, physical, effort-based, and meaningful, which supports more stable dopamine signaling. The strongest factor that lowers dopamine signaling is chronic psychological stress, because elevated cortisol suppresses dopamine release and in the prefrontal cortex, impairing motivation, focus, and emotional regulation. Sleep deprivation is another major factor. Even one night of insufficient sleep reduces dopamine signaling and dopamine receptor availability, leading to fatigue, low motivation, and poor concentration. Constant stimulation is a problem, especially excessive social media use. Provides fast, unpredictable rewards that flatten real-life dopamine response, leading to boredom, low frustration tolerance, and loss of motivation. High sugar intake produces sharp dopamine spikes, followed by crashes, and gradually reduce dopamine receptor sensitivity. Excessive caffeine masks low dopamine temporarily, but worsens dopamine balance over time. A sedentary lifestyle is a primary biological trigger of low dopamine because movement itself stimulates dopamine release. Now let's say how to increase dopamine naturally. The most effective natural support for dopamine is daily aerobic movement, such as brisk walking, light jogging, or cycling. Physical movement increases dopamine release, improves dopamine receptor sensitivity, and reduce cortisol. Second is morning light exposure, especially outdoor daylight, within 1 or 2 hours. Supports, especially outdoor daylight, supports circadian rhythm and improves daytime dopamine signaling. Third important trick is reduce fast dopamine before 12 p.m. It's crucial. Avoid social media, junks, sugar, and constant scrolling in the morning. This prevents early dopamine spikes and preserves dopamine sensitivity. Fourth important factor is cold exposure. It's very important, for example, washing your face and neck with cold water, or finishing your shower with 30 to 60 seconds of cold water. A brief exposure to cold air activates noradrenergic and dopaminergic neurons, increases dopamine release and improves dopamine receptor responsiveness without a crash. And fifth important trick is protein first meal, especially in the morning. Start with protein because protein provides tyrosine, and tyrosine is required for dopamine synthesis. And eggs, yogurt, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, meat, fish, and tofu are the best for the morning. And sixth important factor is goal anticipation. It's a powerful tool. It's, for example, writing a clear goal for next 3 hours, visualizing only completion moment, and using a clear top sentence, which triggers dopamine release during anticipation. Dopamine fires strongest before action, not after reward. The task should be specific, finishable within 1 or 2 hours, and slightly uncomfortable. You visualize the end state only. Completion is essential because dopamine learning depends on action followed by completion. And another trick is mild boredom window also improves dopamine sensitivity. For example, walking without headphones, sitting quietly, or waiting without checking the phone allows dopamine sensitivity to recover by around 10 to 20%. And micro-challenge, delayed gratification, strengthens dopamine signaling. Small efforts like an extra repetition, 1 more minute of focus, or waiting before rewards, train the brain to link effort with reward, improves dopamine responsiveness. And mild morning physical discomfort, such as early stretching or light movement while still sleepy, activates effort reward cycle and increases dopamine signaling for several hours without overstimulation, reduces decision fatigue by simplifying daily choices, preserves prefrontal dopamine activity, supporting focus, motivation, and self-control.